would like to invite Mrs. Manel Msalmi. She is the advisor of the European People's Party for its international relations. So now the floor is yours, madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jamil, and thank you everyone for the invitation. I'm really honored to be here to speak about women's rights in South Asia and also violence against women, mainly in South Asia after what is happening now in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. Women's rights and violence against women in South Asia. Let us start with the example of Pakistan. Noor Mukaddam's ultimate hours have been terror-filled. Beaten repeatedly, the 27-year-old girl and thrown from a window, however, changed in a dragged back, crushed once more, and sooner or later beheaded. An adolescent's body has been charged together along with her killing. The grotesque dying ultimate week in the community of the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, is the trendy of a sequence of assaults on ladies in Pakistan, in which human rights activists say it's such a gender primarily based totally attacks are rising and show the degree of extremism and violence against women. Muqaddam is the daughter of a diplomat, and her fame as a member of the elite has shown or has highlighted the relentless and developing violence in opposition to women in Pakistan, stated a distinguished rights activist Tahira Abdullah. But the number of ladies and women who suffer from such violence are on the rise. Most of the time, they are from the middle class, and their deaths are now regularly ignored. I quote, "I may want to come up with a listing longer than my arm, best in a single week," end of quote, of assaults in opposition to women, stated Abdullah. I quote, "The epidemic of sexual crimes and violence in opposition to women in Pakistan is a silent epidemic. No one sees it. No one is speaking about," end of quote. Still, Pakistan's parliament didn't issue any law against domestic violence that seeks to defend women from violence at home, including the assaults from their husbands. Instead, it requested an Islamic ideology, and it weighs any measure against the Islamic law. In 2020, Pakistan, coming in at 153 out of 163 countries, before headed of best Iraq, Yemen, and Afghanistan, which held the ultimate spot regardless of billions of dollars spent on 2 decades of worldwide interest on gender problems. Many of the assaults in Pakistan are so referred as honor killings, in which the offender is a brother, father, or a different male relative. Each 12 months, more than 1,000 ladies are killed in one way. A lot of them are unreported, says Human Rights Watch workers. I quote, "The government didn't set up safety or duty for abusers in opposition to ladies and girls, inclusive of so referred to as honor killings, pressure or forced marriage, which human rights document mentioned." The human rights corporations had been sharply focusing on Prime Minister Imran Khan and his authorities in his excuses of the perpetrators' assaults on women. This kind of behavior encourages the human rights violations regarding women. His data minister, Fawad Chowdhury, says Khan's statements had been taken out of context and denied violence in opposition to women without supplying any evidence. He stated that we encourage ladies in politics and sports activities and in provinces in which Khan celebrations dominates human rights regulations, and which had been strengthened lately. I quote, I assume this notion isn't always truly near reality, that during Pakistan, women aren't secure, and perhaps there is a misogyny in exercise in Pakistan, end of quote. Chaudhry stated in an interview, one of all Khan's cabinet ministers, Ali Amin Gantpur, advised a rally of male supporters that he would slap and slap, I quote, a lady competition political leader. Such testimonies witness that there is a growth of ultra-conservative or even extremist values in Pakistan, stated Amir Rana, one of the Pakistan Institute of Peace Studies. Now I go to the second case, the case of Afghanistan. Although Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid promised on August 17th that the Taliban might honor ladies' rights inside the Islamic law, violence in opposition to women continues. The Taliban shot a girl in Takhar province because she doesn't wear a burqa, simply a few hours later. The Taliban additionally issued new legal guidelines and rules within the captured districts of Takhar province, ordering ladies to no longer depart domestic alone and set dowry rules for women. These movements humiliate women. The home state of affairs and in Afghanistan says that ladies are victims of violence since 1990s. Women are victims of numerous kinds of violence: honor killings, rape, beatings, lashings, imposed prostitutions, acid assaults, forced marriage, and marriage to remedy tribal and land-associated animosity. Violence in opposition to women at some point of militant assaults has additionally grown to be a popular manner of lifestyles within the war-ravaged country. According to the United Nations Assistant Mission in Afghanistan, there had been 1,146 ladies casualties in 2020, 390 killed and 756 injured. This marked the very best wide variety considering the systematic documentation started in 2009. Women had been mainly harmed from the use of rockets, exclusive devices, etc. Many had been additionally killed and injured in centered killing incidents. The Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission had instances of excessive violence dedicated with regard to women. It recorded a complete of 3,477 instances of violence in opposition to women. This comprised 1,241 instances of physical violence regarding women, including instances of mutilation, sexual violence, and torture regarding ladies, verbal, intellectual violence, financial and economic violence are depriving these women from their rights to the inheritance, or also the right to supplying alimony, which is nafaqa, and stopping a function in their own circle of relatives, promoting their assets without their consent. These instances of domestic violence, early marriage, forced marriage, are stopping women from going to school, from having economic independence. And the state of affairs in Afghanistan is really afraid of the situation because of these instances of violence regarding women have never ended. With the Taliban now in control, women's rights advocates should support Afghani women and should show solidarity towards what they are enduring every day. Now I come to the conclusion with regard to the situation here in Belgium and in Europe. These women are sometimes escaping from discrimination, violence, persecution, to find the same strategy sometimes here, sometimes here in Europe. Europe witnessed so many honor killings on its soil. Women from Muslim background coming from South Asia, Middle East, can be an object to forced hijab and forced marriage. Unfortunately, political leaders, media influencers, and even women's rights advocates sometimes avoid speaking about these issues because they are afraid to be accused of racism or what they call Islamophobia. But we should be always remembering that these young women and girls fled their countries to have a better life here in Europe as equal human beings and not to be victims of the same ideology that they were forced to endure in their homelands. Thank you very much.